Oh, so it's a Friday and it's afternoon. I hope you are not feeling tired.
It's Friday, yeah. Weekend's coming.
So yeah, I feel like it's a good time for you to discuss something about yourself. And that's why we are scheduling this call. So I'm working as a software engineering lead, followed by a lot of designing things and microservice implementations and code and everything's are there into my role. Yeah, and I have a Jim with me. Yeah, Jim.
Yeah, my name is Jim. Already 1 year, so I'm working on focus on auto deposit and senior Java developer. Okay.
Nice to meet you guys.
Yes.
Work as a Java developer around 10 years. Like my first job was Sun Life Financial. Worked there for like 6 years. Then I moved to, it's all financial companies. I work with the payment products. And then I go back to China as a software developer contractor. And then when I come back as a team lead, and then I rejoin as a senior software engineer. So that's pretty much my experience.
And what's your current status?
I just resigned last month, actually.
Okay.
Yep. I'm hunting for a job right now. So.
Can I ask what's the reason?
Well, there are a bunch of reasons. So a few years, but there is no salary boost. But my title is a senior software engineer, but I act as a team lead. I lead the team, do a lot of leading the other developers, do a lot of design with the staff engineer. So also I do a lot of coding. So there are a lot of the work is very busy and stressful, and because I take more work to, so I request salary boost or promotion. There's nothing, and then the thing is, my manager promised me there will be huge salary increase in the next 3 months, but after a few months, there's still no timeline. So it's kind of pissed me off. Then I just did it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I understand.
Comfortable decisions in living in Toronto and taking decisions. Anyway, it's your personal choice, and I respect your personal choice. Okay. Mm-hmm. So today, we are here to discuss more about you. We would like to know more about you, your technical skills, and talking a few things about your previous job achievements and some of can be better things. So based on that, we will continue this meeting. So when I scan through your resume, it's pretty much like a generic sentence. I'm not able to get few of idea related your achievement. So in your past 2 jobs or any or throughout your career, if you think something that you achieved in terms of a designing, in terms of a solutions, or in terms of a coding, feel free to discuss.
Well, that means my interview is my resume is not good enough. So you're searching for something that is not there. Okay. I 4 years ago I was a team lead. So there are a bunch of products I was leading to design and implement that products, right? So I lead the team which has 4 developers under me. So our company is a payment product company.
Sorry, I think you're frozen.
Yes, network issue.
Jim, you're mute as well.
It's like a network issue for.
Yeah, just typing in the chat. So meanwhile, I will reply on one of the chat. Just acknowledge him that we lose him.
Okay.
Oh, we have
again,
two
you
Jim.
can.
Two John, sorry.
Hello?
Hi, I'm sorry. It's probably my internet. I'm sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, that happened.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes. Yeah, so I lead one project. I lead one project called Insurance to enable the user to do email transfer to do the payments, right? So I work with know their APIs, know their interface, and design the whole solutions, and leading the team to actually implement the whole products. So which is quite successful. We have 3 phases. And I was there for the first 2 phases, and then I go back to China and join Hulu. The first 2 phases is pretty successful, and then when I come back, which is 2 years ago, and the most profitable product in our company is give us a lot of money. So that is what I did. Of course, I didn't do the whole solution by myself. We have architect help us to design, but I do contribute a lot to discuss a lot of pros and cons, how to use that API, if we need to use webhook or asynchronous communication, those kind of stuff, if we need to use cache for the performance, those kind of stuff, right? So, and I also work with the product manager to actually finalize, transfer the business requirement to technical tickets and assign to my developers for their implementation, doing code review, guide their coding, really doing a small release 1 by 1, those kind of stuff, right? And the whole process, I think, phase 1 is 4 months, phase 2 is another 3 months. It's around more than half year, so 2 phases, right? Okay, so that is big. That is my biggest achievement. Yeah.
Great, good to hear that in your achievement we are there as like a service provider, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Perfect. So I'm glad that we are already in your life and you consider as like integrating with us as an achievement. So it's so glad moment for us. And I really like that you talking about like your contributions into synchronous, asynchronous implementations. You contributed like caching solutions and performance, and these are like a very key and important perspective for us. So I would like to know a little bit more about like what level of performance that you were measured at the time. What kind of
what level? Sorry, what level of what?
What kind of like performance related thing that you achieve in your achievement? What are the workload? What are the TPS? What are the throughputs? Kind of like high level things.
You mean my personal or about the project's performance?
So the project which you work integrate with, where you contributed into performance enhancement, caching, sync, async communications, right?
Yeah, of course.
Right. So
yeah.
I would like to know, when you use our API, what kind of performance metrics that you incorporated, what, like how you tested your performance, like, and what are the TPS and what are the throughputs?
So we test our performance. We use JMeter for our performance testing. This is for our low environment performance testing. And we measure the P95 and P99 to see if the API performance is working, because mostly we are backend APIs, right? So and see if we analyze if some API is slow. We analyze why it's slow, because we analyze the logs and the Datadog, you capture the trace, right? And see which part is taking longer. Like there is one scenario, some kind of, because our backend, we have the user data, product data, money, settlement, and the fees, all those kind of stuff. They are inside our Postgres database, right? A lot of time, if we want to get specific merchant, specific level user, if it is VIP or what kind of fee we should charge, all this kind of stuff. There will be a lot of information we need to gather to make one transaction, but those ones can be cached. And if the query call for those, to grab those information, you will need to join a bunch of tables. So that will be pretty expensive, right? So that's the thing we cached. We try to cache a lot on a distributed Redis database, right? And then whenever this person make another transactions, usually the problem is a small amount transaction. I think it's $2,000 to $2,050, $2,500, right?
And that's
so,
the limit to be set in your account, yeah?
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like, but usually the customer will want to deposit more than that. So they will usually what they will do is they deposit a bunch of transactions. Like they do a bunch of transactions all within like 5 to 10 minutes, right? So it's extremely useful for us to hash this customer for a period of time. If we come back and do another transaction, it will be much faster, right?
One sec here. So imagine like that customer has to deposit like 10K and Interact allow you like 2K per transactions. Are you saying customer to perform 5 transactions to achieve 10K transfer, or
No,
you are accepting one? You are accepting one request of 10K. Internally, you split into 5 transactions and you call Interact API 5 times.
Well, that's our phase 3. If the first phase 1 and phase 2, we do separate transactions because we test. We need a prototype, some kind of thing to really get feedback from the customers, right? So that's our phase 2. Phase 2, we even have a lot of script. We use external like screen scraping, like those kind of stuff, like do a lot of things automatically because they don't need to log into their bank account, right? A lot of stuff like integrated into the phase 3, but right now we can actually achieve that.
Okay, so sorry to interrupt, but I would like to know more about your phase 3 where you are handling the transactions by taking like a 10K from the customer and splitting into 5 different transactions based on the limit, and you are sending it. So when you perform, let's say, Interact API call to 3 times means 3,000, like 6,000 transfers successfully, and 4th time, if you try to send like a 2,000 and Interact API is throwing an error, like how do we handle these situations? Because customer has performed only one API call to send a 10K. Internally, we split into 5 transactions, 3 success, 4th failed, and we don't know about like a 5th one.
So I'm sorry, I was not involved in phase 3. So that's the question. For this one, I cannot really answer. I can only involve in first phase 2 and phase 1 and phase 2. But the thing is, so we have we have a bunch of products. The Interact products is usually for a very limited small amount of transactions, and we have other products for a large amount of transactions. Usually, if you go into our product solutions, we usually promote you to, if you want to do a really large amount of transactions, we won't recommend doing Interact. But if you want to do small amount of transactions, we recommend doing Interact, those kind of stuff, right?
Okay. So that's again interesting thing that if you are involved, let's say phase 3, and if you are got an opportunity to design these solutions to split into multiple transactions and send all these transactions, right? Like what is your recommendations? Like, is it a good design? And will you take an opportunity to do these implementations, or you decline the solutions?
So the thing is, like, if you have a way to roll back seamlessly, like you don't need to involve the customer, right? If you involve the customer, they will be pissed off, right? You seamlessly, you can roll back, that will be good. We can go ahead with that solution. But if there is no way to actually roll back, then there will be a problem, right? So the thing is, for those kind of Interact e-transfer, so Interact email transfer, so we are not 100% sure how much money they have there in their account, right? We're not 100% sure. Like if they only have 1,000, if they do 2,000 transactions, the first transaction success and the second transaction will fail, right? If there's a way to roll back, yes, we can do that. But there's no way to roll back. Then I won't consider that. So partial transaction is a nightmare. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare for both merchant and for us and for customer to actually manage that, right? So that I won't suggest we do the partial transactions. Extremely I'm opposing to that. Like that, if we can roll back, yes, we will. Yeah.
But think like this way, that you are as a solutions, you are. I'm agree with you that you don't like the partial transaction. Neither me as well, right? But sometimes it's an architecture and business push to go by that design, and you supposed to be handle this. And from Interact side, we know that there is no rollback. Or once your transaction is done, it's done. Right? But still you have to handle the situations how? Like there are a couple of certain edge cases, right? You can handle by differently, right? So are you able to like think, accept, roll back, any kind of like solutions that you could achieve?
So you mean if I really want to implement multiple transactions, how would I do that? Right?
You are in a push to implement that solutions. Let's use the word like that. I'm as like a CEO and I'm pushing you like, no, I want this. And you are the software developer. You want to implement this, knowing this fact that there is no rollback. There is a possibility of like a lack of fund. There is possibility of one transaction is failed. Still, what are the circumstances and situations you handle by your code to make sure that you fulfill the CEO's requirement?
So what I would do is I would do an intermediate account. So I won't actually transfer the money directly to, because usually the customer will pay to the merchant, right? And I will do an intermediate transaction and let the customer pay to us. If we really need to roll back, we can initiate another interactive transfer, roll back by ourselves, pay back to the customer, right? So that's one way to roll back. Right? You don't need to, if we contact the merchant, let the merchant roll back, they will be pissed off. But if you send us the enough money to us, if you want to do 2 transactions, 1,000 each, you can, one successful, one fail, right? We know that. And we give you back with the 1,000, right?
But how you get the $1,000 which is deposited to my account back as a rollback amount, right? Because you are saying my company will pay the initial $1,000 to the person who is sending the money, but I am as a recipient, I receive like a 1,000. How do you get back from me?
So the thing is, so this kind of thing usually won't happen. Usually the problem is, the customer needs to pay, but the customer account doesn't have enough money. If the merchant will pay to the customer, usually there's no problem because we manage the merchant account with those kind of stuff, right? So if the customer only accepts money, there usually won't be any problem, except that the interact is done. If the interact is done, we will wait for it to come back, and it will be a pending transactions. It will be a batch process. And eventually it will send to the customer. But the problem is if the customer doesn't have enough money, if we only send $1,000 to the merchant, but the merchant requests $2,000, and then we need to reject this transaction. How we reject it is we let the customer send to us, and then we send back the $1,000 because you didn't send me $2,000, right? And we reject this transaction. I don't want your $1,000. I want $2,000. Right, so this is kind of thing, right?
Okay. That's good discussions, and I really want to know about like a batch process into the solutions, and you are already covering it. So yeah, that's pretty much good about your achievement. I really want to talk more about it, but due to like time constraints, I give opportunity to Jim to ask you like a more technical questions. But before I hand over to Jim, since you are a very interesting person, I would like to know about like a caching. You said it like there is a merchant data, there is a customer data you cache, and those data, like when cache come into the picture, there are some problems coming with the cache by default, and we have to handle as a software engineers, right? So do you think like anything related to, let's say, updating cache data, limiting cache data, like then discarding cache data kind of things in your solutions?
Yeah, of course. The least recent use, LRU, I will use the least recent use, right? So usually you don't want to cache everything, right? The cache usually, the user needs to log in, the user session, 100% need to be cached, right? That will be a lot of stuff, 100% need to be cached. And a lot of stuff that won't change frequently. For example, some specific information about the user, some specific information about the merchant configuration, fees, standard, those kind of stuff, usually won't change. So they can be cached. But if something is changing frequently, that shouldn't be cached, because you will have a lot of erase and rewrite, that will impact the performance, right? So, and there are a bunch of strategy you want to do, because usually we use write back. We use write back cache.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we use write back. We first write to the cache, and then write to the database, right?
Oh,
but
okay.
There is a write back, write through, write back, read through, read back, right? So so we use the write back, but the thing is, so it's totally our app control the write to the database and control the write to the Redis, right? But you can also use write through, right? It will be the Redis will be an additional layer responsible for writing to the database. And the app don't need to worry about the database at all, right? So, but we use write back. So to actually.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, because we have like a little time constraints. And since like cache, read, write back this strategy, we can implement some solutions, so for sure, right? So I'm just like cutting you here, like don't get me wrong, right? You are going on a right track, so that's why I just want to like interrupt and giving an opportunity to Jim to ask like more technical questions.
No problem. Yeah.
Okay. In your system, should have some user very security information, so like a personal identify information. So how you store those information in your system?
So the thing is, user's name, name, address, those kind of stuff is we define as different levels, right? So usually user's name, first name, last name, address, phone number won't be encrypted in the database, but the really account number, those anything related to the money, will be encrypted and stored into the database, right? Is that what you're asking? So how do you secure user's information in the database?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so those one will be encrypted, and also because we dump a lot of logs, but a lot of logs will, for example, the API response. Sometimes we actually dump into the logs. The API response a lot of time will contain users' financial information, and we need to mask that. We don't want them to appear in the log. So if they appear in the log, anyone can look at that user's financial information. That is not good, right? So we need to protect users' financial information as much as we can. Don't expose in the database, don't expose in the log, right? Those kind of stuff.
Okay, good. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm asking some basically Java question, technical question. Mm-hmm. So let's start from a very simple one. So have a list and a hash map, right? So what's the difference list and hash map?
Hash map uses a hash function and it stores the things into different buckets. A list is just you mean if it is array list is well, they are totally different. Come on, they're totally different. You can accept get the first element, get the second element. You can access any element in the list, but the hash map is not ordered, right? You cannot really get that from the hash map. You have to use the key, and then you go through the hash function and really grab the value, right? So, yeah, and a lot of times the list has the initial capacity. If you increase the list to like double the capacity or something, like you need more memory, copy the list to some other memory and double the capacity. A lot of this kind of, if you insert too much into the list, that will impact your performance. Usually, hash map is much better choice. You store the information. If you have a really large amount of data, hash map is better solution, right? Depends on what kind of thing you want to do. If you really want to know the index, the first element, the second element, then we can choose other data structures, right? So if you just have a key and want to grab the value, then hash map is better, right?
Okay, so in Java object we have a method called hash code method. So do you know what that's used for?
Hash code method?
Yeah.
Hash code method is used to generate it's used by the hash function to generate the hash code and then really spot the bucket in the hash table, right?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And what's that useful?
Why? What do you mean by why that is useful? So
let me elaborate a question like this. So what Jim wants to ask that what is the need of implementing that hash code methods?
Yes.
Without the hash code, you don't have the hash function. You don't have the hash function, you cannot do the hash, right?
But why do I need hash? In which circumstances I must implement hash code, and in which circumstances I said I don't want like a hash code implementation.
The thing is, if you want to use that object as a key, then you have to use that. No,
I don't want to use as a key. Let's say I'm with the error list, right? I'm not working with the hash map. Still, I need like a hash code or not? Why Java is given that hash code method in very like a top level of object that anyone can override and anyone can implement it based on them requirements. So I would like to know like at least one necessity of implementing hash code methods.
To really do the equal, I think do the equal is you need the hash code, right?
Yeah. That's right.
If let's say like equal, I can do without even hash code. So what is the difference if I implement hash code and then equal, and if I don't implement hash code and I can still perform equal?
Of course you can perform, but if you're an object, you need to really compare. And that object might contain a field which another object might be deeply nested, right? If you use a hash code, it's just one function, you can really compare that. But if without hash code, you need to compare all the fields very deeply nested. That will be a nightmare, right?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Okay. So let's move to the next question. So. For example, we have a try, catch, finally, right? So if in the try, we have a return sentence. So the finally code still running or not?
Running.
Run. Okay.
Of course it's run. The finally is used to close any resources, right? But usually you will want to do, because Java has the try with the resource, you don't need to actually do the finally. Right. Okay. So for example, you open a connection, then finally you go close the connection, close the file, this kind of stuff, right?
Okay. So finally, it's always to run, and it's before return or after return.
Well, this is a good question. This I think it's after the return.
After return.
I think it's after the return. Yeah.
Oh, really? After return, like how do I make sure something finally is doing, and that is also like not that's also like execute?
Well, it's always execute. To be honest, I'm not 100% sure of this one.
Don't worry, like it's a discussion, right?
Yeah, it's
always execute. Okay. I would think it's execute at the same time when you return. It will 100% execute if you really want to close some resource. It will 100% execute. I'm not 100% sure it's right before the return or right after the return.
That's why we have a gym with us.
Yeah, it's like a tricky question. It's before. It's always before return.
Always before.
Yes.
Okay, I got you. Thank you. Now I know more.
Okay, let's move to some RESTful API question. So, how you design a RESTful API in your system?
Well, this is a broad question. So, you design the RESTful API. The RESTful API should define your use case, right? So the API should come from the business requirements. For example, like you need to design this page, you need to list all the merchants, you need to list all the users, and what are the fields you need to list, and you use the get post or any other update using the put, so this kind of stuff.
Okay, so let's start. What is the post method is useful for the REST API?
Post?
Yeah, post.
Post is to create something, right?
Okay, so how about we want to update something? Which method? Put.
Put, yeah.
Okay.
But I want to update partial.
Yeah, if we want just a partial update, not update the whole thing, what method?
There is one, but I kind of forgot the name. Sorry about that. There's one, but the thing is, we didn't use that at all. We didn't use the partial update at all.
Also, so you always like.
Usually, we always use the whole update.
Full update. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like can I still call put? Can I still call post API to update one of my resource which is already created and stored in database?
I think you can. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have response code like 200 and 201, 202. So what's the difference 201 and 202? What's the difference? Do you know?
201 is okay. That's the thing I know. 202 I kind of.
What about the 201? So yeah. What situation we return 201?
There is one is created, updated, something like that.
Yes, created. Yes.
Yeah, I just don't remember which one's which. Yeah.
How about 202?
Like, come on. Like,
Okay, 204.
The thing is, we use the HTTP enum, right? So I don't really always pay attention to the number, but in our code we use the enum just to return OK or created or something like that, right?
And follow-up questions for the same. What is the difference between 400 series error and 500 series error in the HTTP status code, right?
400 is client problem, 500 is server problem, right?
Yeah. Okay. So, for example, if we have client server A and call client server B, and if server B have some issue, cannot respond immediately. So how you deal with this kind of situation?
So you mean API call between?
Yes, the rest of the API call, and if server have some long process, and you cannot, the server cannot respond very quickly. It's like maybe take 1 minute or 2 minutes. So how you?
Well, that won't usually happen. So the thing is, we design a system that will take 1 or 2 minutes to really come back. That will be a huge problem, right, for the system. But if you really want to want to do this kind of scenario, you can have a timeout or retry those kind of stuff if the server is done. But usually the server is done or up, we will have a heartbeat, right? You know the server is up or down, right? Usually it's a behind a cluster, and the cluster will always has primary or secondary nodes. Usually it won't have that, but if the whole cluster is done, then you will have an issue, right?
Okay, how about we change another question, like if server B has very long process, like generate a summary report, maybe it take like 1 hour. So how you did this situation?
Well, then you will need to use asynchronous communication. It's not good for API, right?
Yes.
Yeah, then you need to use asynchronous, because if you have a thread keep waiting for the response, it's a waste of a resource for a few minutes for the client, right? Right? You will need to want to use push that into the queue and then come back with a notification, right? Something like that will be better. Instead, if you let your client open connection wait for 1 or 2 minutes, then your thread pool will have a problem, right?
Yes. How you design server B to respond this kind of situation to the client?
You mean you still want me to use API or use?
Yes, still use API. Yes, asynchronous. And how you tell your client that the report is ready?
Yeah. So if you use asynchronous, whenever it receives, it acknowledges the RabbitMQ, right? It doesn't need to start the process. Whenever it receives the information, you acknowledge RabbitMQ, then RabbitMQ know this is done. This is finished the transferring the information. Anything after receive, you process and you send notification back. You can have a webhook or something like that, or notification to the outside world merchant or anything, not any other mechanism to actually acknowledge, or even another RabbitMQ come back. So there are a bunch of ways to do that. But whenever you receive something, you acknowledge immediately. Then the client side will know, okay, you received that, then you are processing. Then just wait for the response. The response can come back with many other ways, right?
Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move another question. And okay, so in Spring Book, okay, so we have a transaction annotation.
Mm-hmm.
So do you know about propagation about the transaction? For example, we have a request transaction tab, and we have request new. So what's the difference?
You mean the transaction annotation?
Yes, transactional annotation.
Transactional annotation, that means you put the whole bunch of code. For example, if you annotate one function as a transactional, then the whole function, whatever database query or database update is one transaction, right? It's success as a whole or failed as a whole, right? You can always roll back, right?
Yes.
So that's the transactional, right?
Yes.
So
yeah, there is a lot of transaction, different tab propagation. For example, we have a request, and we have a mandatory, and we have a request new. Do you know what's different those kind of transactional?
I'm sorry, that part I haven't used. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that part I haven't used. Yeah.
Okay.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If we have some problem exceptions, we have some exception and we want to roll back. So if the exception is a checked exception, we want to roll back. So how you deal with this kind of problem?
The thing is, anything inside the transaction, it should be able to roll back automatically. That's my understanding, right? So if you want to manually
no, not manually. If something happen, we throw exception, right? So you mean any exception they're gonna roll back?
No, I don't think so.
So what kind of exception they're gonna roll back?
If the exception related to the query or related to the update, those kind of exceptions, it will roll back. If you have another illegal argument exception, for example, I don't think it will roll back.
Do you know we have a runtime exception or check exception? What's different?
Yeah.
Runtime exception and the check exception.
Check exception you can catch. Runtime exception you won't want to catch, right?
Yeah. Yes. For the transaction rollback, if this throw runtime exception, did you need to do something to roll back or not?
Runtime exception. The runtime exception. I'm sorry, that I'm not 100% sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's fine. Okay, that's fine. Do you know about the lazy loading and the eager loading?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So what's the difference?
Lazy loading is when you call the transaction, when you make the query call, it won't grab the value immediately. So whenever you access that element, it will make another query call to actually grab that element. But the eager loading, you grab them all at once.
Okay, so what's the situation we better use lazy loading, and some situation we better use eager loading?
So if you are 100% sure if you need that information, then we can use eager loading. But for some kind of information, this might not be needed immediately in that transaction or in the code process. You might want to use the lazy loading to don't actually need to retrieve that information all in one query, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think I've finished all my questions. Do you want to ask some technical question?
Oh yeah, I'm always having like a bunch of questions on my head, right? Mm-hmm. And a couple of things. Maybe we can resume what we left from your achievement portions. We discussed about like transactions. We discussed about like a performance, right? Cache, right? We can resume that topic, right? So if I'm caching some of the data, as you mentioned, we cannot cache like the whole database, right? And some of the data is changed. That how would I address this, right? To make sure my cache is also refreshed based on the data refresh.
It depends on how you cache the data. So if you use write back, the cache is always most recent update because it's always write to the cache first and then write to the database, right?
that's a other concept that you can use with the same microservice. So let's say I have a 2 microservice, right? And service A is dealing with one resource, and it has like expose all API, put, post, right, to create and manipulate an object. Now service B is a consumer of service A, and the service B is caching the data which is produced by service A. And now the service A data is changed. How would service B know?
It depends on the data is sensitive or not. It depends on the data is time sensitive or not. If it is not that time sensitive, we can always set expiration time for retrieving the data, right? To actually refresh the data for the cache. But if it is very, very time sensitive, I won't rather recommend using the cache, right?
Okay. Sounds good. Okay, so in your resume, I saw like you wrote like a lot of efficient code using Java up to version 7. Which version is like you are most familiar and you wrote a lot of code in that version?
Java 17, I didn't use that much. Java 11 and Java 8, I would think.
Okay, 11. So that's great. 11, like, are you able to call like some specific feature which you like a lot and you use it in your solutions, or you just use like it by 11?
Yeah, I like to use the record. I think record is Java 17, right? Yeah, I like to use the record. The record is a really easy way, just one line, just you define that and project, right? And then it's immutable and it has all the hash equal and implement for you, right? Usually I like to use the record. And also the switch can do a lot. Try with the restores, those kind of stuff is much better to use.
Yeah, good to know that. Great. In terms of writing code, like I'm a big fan of like clean code and clean approach. So what is your thought process behind like code and clean code?
Our process, don't make one function too huge.
Okay,
that
so
is
okay.
that,
So
that is
you're in favor of like a kind of like a clean code, okay? So what can be like okay, like I fully agree that function can be limited a little bit, okay? But what is like a basic principle I use to make sure that my code is following at least clean code principles? There are a lot of principles, but like if you know at least one will be okay.
I cannot say the name, but I know all the principles.
Don't worry, you can elaborate. I will figure it out the name.
Yeah, so use the interface and use the decoupling as much as possible. Don't let them couple together, because a lot of time if you want to have more object under one interface, if a lot of things are coupling together, you will need a lot of change, right? So for example, like if you use factory, then the factory is better to use some kind of enum to really lose some coupling with the actual object that is created, right? So those kind of stuff, and it also use strategy, all the design patterns for them to lose coupling, right? That is what I really like. So a lot of time, if you write bad code, if you want to make one change, add one small thing, you want to touch a lot of stuff that is a code smell, right? So that is not good, right?
Okay. So factory is kind of like a design pattern. I can use like a bunch of other, like a bridge pattern, command pattern. I can use like a bunch of them, right? So that's not like implementation of factory is not all the time feasible. And that's not the only, like, I will say, like, this is my clean code because I'm using FactoryPad.
No. There are a lot of principles. Could you give me one example, like one problem, like let me solve, that I will know what you're really looking for?
That will be great. So this is my daily problems, okay? I saw like some of the code which is written like badly, right? And you need to enhance that code to fit your requirement, right? What will you do as a first step?
Enhance your code. The first thing you will need.
Let me simplify. There is a one class, there is a one method written very long, and you need to add few more business logic into same method. How? Like, what is your thought process to take this requirement into considerations, developed and delivered?
So you mean there is already one function, it does a lot of stuff, but you still need to add logic to it.
Yeah, and that function in a production since from last 5 years.
And refactor it to small functions, right? And that is what I will do first. Like, see what I can refactor, and if there's any code that I can reuse in other places, right? And you use abstraction, inheritance, those kind of stuff. If you can decouple it to another class or something like that, like util class, helper class, adapter, like those kind of stuff, like even strategy, use a strategy, those kind of patterns, it will help you to like make it shrink smaller. And for each step, you just make one util function. And if you look at the function, it will step by step, right? It won't have so much detail, right? And a lot of util function can be reused by other code. I will do that, right?
That sounds like a very good idea, and I wish that we can do that. But in terms of like my fear, am I breaking something? Am I covering like all use cases and my code will be not break into productions? So what can be the strategy before like you breaking down into refactor and nicely you start using abstractions and these and that concepts?
The thing is, there's always going to be a risk to break anything, right? Yeah. If you refactor code, there's always going to be risk. This will actually test if your testing coverage, if it is good or not, right? So if your testing coverage is good, then it should handle. Of course, for any small util functions, you should have test coverage for them, and that is good. For any refactoring, it is very risky. It's always going to be risky, right?
But you just said that like you love to refactor, right? So you love to refactor, right? If something is given like which is not written properly, you love to refactor, and you are also saying it's risky, right? So how will you take the call that in this circumstances, let me do refactor, in this circumstances, let's not do refactor?
Well, it depends on many factors. It depends on many factors, like the time for delivery, the error impact of the whole code logic of the whole product, right? And like your understanding of the whole business logic, the products, your understanding, you understand everything, or you understand most of stuff, not so confident. There are a lot of things to really consider and really make decisions. But if you make a decision to refactor, it's a team. I would think usually in my previous team, if you want to do a very small few lines refactoring, that is good. If you want to do a whole function, a whole class refactoring, it's a team decision. It's not your own decision usually, right? Because if you really want to refactor a lot of code, you need to make sure first your test coverage is good, right? Yeah. And you need to know what you are doing, and the way you choose to refactor need to be discussed. Why that approach is bad? Which approach is the best to actually refactor? That will be not just one developer should decide and do everything. Usually, it's a team effort, right?
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds like a committed plan. Okay. Sounds good. In your whole career, right, you implement like a lot of systems, a lot of projects, right? What level of testing that you were part of, and what level of testing you want that bare minimum needed for the project?
Bare minimum is unit testing, integration testing. Integration testing is test all the API functionalities, right? So that is very minimum. In unit testing for all the functions, for all the business logic, we use Sonar Cloud to see the test coverage. The test coverage needs to have a good coverage. Usually we expect more than 80% the test coverage, Sonar Cloud. And also we use JMeter for the performance testing. Usually for very new products, we won't have JMeter because that will be later on. We have enough transactions, traffic will have JMeters, right? So, and we also need Cypress to do UI testing. UI testing to actually go through the whole flow of the whole product. Yeah. So the Cypress will actually do that, and we have the penetration testing. Usually we have a dedicated security officer who actually always trying to hack our site. And hey, you report a bug. There's a vulnerability, or like something like that. Like that is necessary. Security, for especially a financial company, security is the highest priority. You will never want your site to be vulnerable, right? Especially those kind of stuff. So that is very important. So those kind of testing are all necessary. But unit testing, integration testing, you have to have, right? Before a new product launch, Cypress user flow testing, you have to have. The most important is the security penetration testing. You need to have that. But the performance testing for the JMeter can be later on.
Okay, perfect. Any of your experience related to penetration testing?
Pardon me?
Any of your experience which you would like to share with us related to penetration testing?
Well, when I joined the 4 years ago, we don't have a security officer. At that time, I used a burn suit. A burn suit is a security, is a hacker. It's a hacker. It's a security burn, B-U-R-P suit. You can search for this software. And it's a security software actually used to actually attack. We use the most common ways to really attack your site to generate reports of your vulnerabilities. At that time, I was responsible to actually try this with the burn suit and find out all the vulnerabilities, and then really try to fix them, right?
What kind of vulnerability is thrown? Is based on the code and library you scan, or based on the usage of your API or your system?
The usage is attacking your site.
Okay.
Like cross-site scripting, SQL injection, those kind of stuff, right? It's use those stuff to actually attack your site to see if your site is vulnerable for those kind of stuff.
So that tool will work with like a UI integration. So it's like attacking from UI, considering like as a hacker, right?
Yeah, set hacker. Also,
is it made for the back? Is it made for the backend API testing as well?
That time, no. That time we didn't do any of the API actually security check. We didn't do that time, no. But that time we focused on the front end.
Okay, no worry.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good. And you work on like microservice architectures, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a Spring Boot microservice architecture you work, or like okay?
Yeah.
Right. So you know about like service discovery and service like registrations or anything?
Yeah, usually this kind of stuff Kubernetes will handle that. Or you can use Eureka by yourself. Like usually Kubernetes will handle that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the difference between Docker and Kubernetes?
Kubernetes is a distributed managing like all the pods, like nodes, those kind of stuff. Each pod and nodes have a Docker, and the whole app is compared to the Docker container and deployed to the Kubernetes, right? They work together, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. So yeah, that's all from my side as well. Except like some of the database related questions. Jim, would you like to have like some DB related questions, or I will take it?
I don't have a database related question. So if you want, you can ask.
Well, actually, I would like to share my experience with him that I am like a NoSQL guy and linked with like a relational database. And we end up with the situations that we have to update billions of record into the productions, right? So billions of record in the productions, right? So do you have like these kind of like experience in your past?
Billions of records into the database, you mean restructure the whole table?
Let's forget about the numbers million and billion. Let's say many record you have to update into the productions.
Yeah. Like there are when we actually do the implementation, because we always have upgrades. If the schema is not designed properly, if you want to do some upgrades, like you will want to delete some columns, repurpose some columns, those kind of stuff, right? You will need to update, right? Yeah. But usually for backward compatibility, we don't delete columns, and we just add new columns, those kind of stuff, and add the new column, add the new data, and then deploy the new code to actually work with the new columns, right? And then if everything runs stably for a few months, then you can consider delete the old column. But you need to make sure the old column is not used by any of your code. That you have to make sure.
How will you make sure?
How do you make sure? How do you make sure? You can inspect the code. That is the first thing. And you can use Datadog trace to search for if there's any track for that table, some kind of information, right? Usually we do this kind of stuff. Usually, because usually for example, like usually that database schema update involve the whole API version change. For example, we went to V2, V2 to V3. If you know your V2 or V3 is not using that column, you have to not using that column, then it will be safe to delete that. Right? Especially.
Yeah.
Especially. Go ahead.
Please, you finish first.
Yeah. So especially when you deprecate one column, you stop inserting new data to that column, right? Any new transaction, any new record for that column is null, right? If your code is working, then you cannot rely on that column, right?
But the problem is that column is used by a consumer. Let's say I have a UI, and the UI is using that column.
Okay. What I mean is you want to deprecate one column. If you still want to deprecate one column.
Yeah, so deprecated column, you said it like we will deprecate, and then after like maybe in the next release we will delete, right? But my consumers are still using it.
Then you cannot. Then why you want to deprecate that column? If your consumer is still using it, you need to repurpose the column, or you make another column to let the consumer grab the information from other places. The data will probably have one extra table or something like that. The whole structure schema needs to be changed. But if you want to deprecate one column, you need to let your code don't actually touch the column at all. Use other informations, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm good as well. So it's your turn. If you have some open questions, shoot it out to us.
I think we have 1.5 hour interview. It's just
No,
1 hour.
that's just like placeholder, right? If we like have like good like more questions and we are not able to cover, but if we cover like what we're supposed to cover early, then yeah, saving time.
Nice. So how's the life and work balancing?
Jim, you would like to attempt?
It depends different team. Some team it's not very busy, but some team it's very busy because they have a lot of production issue.
That's me. I'm not. I'm free.
Yeah, there's a lot of production issue because you know.
Yeah, I can see
Canada.
that. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
I will say like that. Like it's not kind of like a sometime busy, sometime not busy, but value employee time, like value the employees' input and daily hard work. We have like extra holidays. So we have like a summer early off hours, right, on Friday. So this way, like we are getting rewarded from the Intrac, and it's any of the organizations where the issues are come. We have to handle it, right? But challenge with us is kind of like we need to make sure always, because we are dealing with like millions of transactions a day. So whatever like you bring us the solutions that you really need like a good piece of homework before you are presenting to someone. And we always like encourage anyone who is designing or presenting some solutions to provide like a multiple options that don't like miss anything, even though the option is not good, but you still like take it into the considerations. So make sure like everyone is on a same page, right? So in that way, like we have a good culture, we have like less meetings, we have like it's a good life balance. I can see over here based on my 15 year of last experience.
Yeah. So the reason why I ask this is because my previous company, we work like 10 hours a day.
Really?
And I just want to make sure. That doesn't happen in turn.
I worked 14 hours yesterday.
14 hours yesterday?
Yeah, because we end up with a production issue, and I take like an opportunity to fix it in a same day that no one pushed me, even not my manager even said like that why we have that production issue. So it's like your choice, right? I could easily say I take 2 days to finish, and I could say okay, let me take as a challenge and finish it by end of the day. So I started like 9 a.m. and midnight to 2 a.m. we are done.
Yeah, of course. If we have production issue, we even work more. Like we usually sacrifice the whole night, right? So that happens. But like without production issue, usually we are okay, right? We still have regular hours, right?
Yeah. Yes, yeah, sure.
Yeah, always. Like that's what I'm saying. We respect like employee times, right? So yeah, you don't need to worry about that.
Yeah, it's Canada, not China.
And I have to say not in India, so because India has the same thing.
Yeah. So I just have another question. So about the technology you are using, right? Are you guys using Redis or MEM Cache or any other caching solutions?
We have HashiCorp caching, so once there, and we don't like do more caching, and
we just leverage Hibernate cache.
Leverage.
Yes.
Leverage Hibernate cache. Okay.
Yes, it's eCache, like eCache level 2, level 3, but we don't have Redis. We don't have Redis.
You don't have distributed cache solutions. Okay. No. Yeah. Okay. So I heard from your whole database solution is like a relational database. There's no SQL database, right?
Yeah, we don't have no SQL right now.
So far.
That's good. Like, for this position, is purely front end, or is purely back end, or need some front end knowledge as well?
So in our world, like 90% things are back end, and 10% that I'm working sometime front end piece, right? It's just like one small applications. Otherwise, we are back end solution provide company. But if you really want like, okay, something to work on a front end areas, we have like other project as well.
No, I'm not saying that because I have very limited front end experience. I'm just thinking like how many percentage of back end development, how many percentage of front end development, those kind of stuff, right?
It's basically 100%,
right? So it's not like all the time through 100%. For like some of the team is through 100%, but imagine like that in my team, like we do like a front end back end both, and the requirements are like increase, then you may need to support like a few more developers to contribute into front end side, right? And
no
we are not doing like kind of like a crazy beautiful like a JavaScript and kind of like a WhatsApp, Facebook kind of applications, right? So you don't need to worry about, even though it is a front end, it's a easy peasy.
Yeah, so the thing is, we have, in my previous company, we have dedicated front-end developers, but we only handle very complicated scenarios. If we are using React, usually our back-end developers will handle those kind of normal scenarios, normal development for the front-end.
Okay.
But it's just good to know, like, what's your requirements really for expectation for the front-end and back-end, right? So it's good to know. Yeah. Okay, I don't think I have any other questions. Unless you guys have any questions.
Our pleasure to have you on an interview. And yeah, if you have any further more questions, feel free to shoot out an email. We will try to address you.
No problem. Thank you so much, Mike.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye. Have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend.